Sheriff. I believe all three of these gentlemen work for the Sheriff's Department. We have Jake Brady, Bill Grove, and Rick Ramsey. You know the spiel, so we're going to get started with A.B. Malloy. A.B.?
Mr. Brady, I watched some YouTube video of you at a couple of PAC events, and I'm curious what specifically you mean when you say you want the Sheriff's Office to be leaner and greener.
Well, when I talk about leaner and greener, it's obviously in today's world, there is a lot of waste out there, I believe, in recycling. The Sheriff's Office is, to its credit, working on several recycling programs. However, I'd like to amp that up. And we have a lot of waste in paper products. I'd like to go to more electronic versions and stuff. In addition to that, the leaner portion, starting with my waistline and the waistline of all of our deputies. And in addition to that, the size of our government. Our government at the Sheriff's Office, we run a close to $43 million budget. We're very, very top heavy. I want to consolidate some of those positions and do a better job for a cheaper price, and add some rank structure at the bottom where it can do some more good, where the boots in the ground are and where the rubber meets the road.
Just a quick question for Rick. Bob apparently made a mention in the paper that he was surprised at some of the candidates attacking the Sheriff's Department and so forth. But basically, any organization is open for improvement. What areas do you think in the Sheriff's Department need to be modified? What changes would you make to?
Okay, great question. Yeah, I think we should do a lot better on crime education, crime prevention. That's something I've said before and focused on still is really important. I think most crimes are crimes of opportunity, and us working together with the community, trying to help prevent crimes and deter crime and detect crime, and better educate people about how to make their homes safer, cut back trees, motion sensor lights, different stuff we can do to help them if they can't do it themselves, that our officers are out there trying to come up with a solution, whether it be us coming out there helping them, working with social services, however it can be to educate people about locking your cars. A lot of the auto burglars you have are all rifled through because cars are unlocked. We could get on the Sugarloaf, say, 12 auto burglars one night. Well, what we have is somebody, generally younger people, but someone going through the cars, checking handles, and looking for open doors, and rifling through for change and CDs. Well, it goes down to 12 burglaries, and obviously 12 people are victims of crime. We lock those cars, that will stop that. Locking houses, leaving dive gear on the docks, nice fishing rods on the boats. When you come in, you wash them off, you leave them out there in the gunnels. Just stuff that we can do better. Working as a partnership with the community to educate them. That's something I really think we should do. Training, I'm a really pro person on training. We've last year put some really state-of-the-art training in line. A driving simulator, shooting simulator. We're doing a hands-on, realistic in-service training. I want to continue to build on the training, and right now we have some of the best training anywhere. We do anonymous surveys to our people to make sure that we are getting the training they want. And we do anonymous so we get proper feedback. We get 98.5% of our employees say that our stuff is exceptional training. Thank you.
This question is also for Rick. In the proposed 2012-2013 Sheriff's budget, I think the Sheriff is asking for about $42.5 million, which equates to about $560 for every man, woman, and child in the Florida Keys, including folks in Key West who have their own police force. How do you respond to the Republican voter who asks, why does it cost so much to police the Florida Keys?
Well, this is a very difficult area to police because in large part it's a linear park. We know this county is so long, 113 miles. It's difficult to police something which is such a long county. Right now we have 3 jails, just like county government, 3 courthouses, 3 clerk's office, 3 government centers, 3 driver's license bureaus, 3 property appraisers. Everything's tripled because of the distance of this county. You can't expect people in Key Largo to come up from the 105-mile mark to Key West to get a permit. So the same thing happens with the Sheriff's Office. We've got 3 jails. We can't arrest someone at the 106-mile mark and drive them down 2 hours to Key West in the back of a car. Besides the risk of the person handcuffed that may be intoxicated or on some substance abuse and having some type of medical problem in the back of the car or trying to kick out windows? Or what if it take an officer to drive to Key West, book the person in, drive back, will take the whole shift. So we have 3 jails, 4 patrol stations. If we were squared off like most counties, I'd need 2 patrol stations and 1 jail. So that really makes it a very difficult task for us.
Question for Bill Grove. Bill, you talked about morale problems within the Sheriff's Office. How would you characterize those problems and what would you do to improve morale?
I think that there is a morale problem. We've all talked about it, all the candidates have talked about it, and Rick has even said on a couple occasions, there is no morale meter. There's no statistic we can point to say morale is good or bad. However, the Sheriff's Office points to the turnover rate being the lowest it's been in a decade in this last year, in 2011. And that's great. It is lower than it's been in a decade. However, I believe one of the reasons that the turnover rate has been reduced so dramatically is because of the economic downturn and other agencies not hiring officers during this period. Our turnover rate is the lowest in 10 years, but it's still 5 times higher than Miami, Broward, and West Palm, agencies we're competing against. We need to try and keep our officers here. We need to keep our officers here because it makes for better service to the community, better trained officers. More than half of our officers have 1 to 5 years experience, and that's a problem. I'll steal a statistic number from Jake. He talks about even that number at 10.5% in 5 years, that's half of our officers. In 10 years, that's the entirety of our officers. Turning over every 5 years, we're turning over half of them. 10 years, we're turning over everybody. The citizens pay for that lack of experience. And I currently work for the state attorney's office. I've spoken to the current state attorney and the former state attorney, who both have told me lack of officer training and lack of officer experience has been a problem, hindered them in successful prosecution of cases.
Bill, I'm actually going to follow up with you a little bit because Ed specifically asked a question about, to Rick, about why it's so expensive to run the sheriff's office. And you've been really specific about what you see as a top-heavy pay structure. Took a couple notes from things that you talked about in the past. 21 people will make $100K or more, an expensive airplane to fly commissioners to Tallahassee, while SRO positions were eliminated, Marine Patrol unit positions were eliminated. So you obviously have a different opinion about where the expense comes from. How would you change that if you were to become sheriff? Specifically, operationally, administratively, how would you restructure the sheriff's office?
Well, I think the first step that I would take is, currently there's 2 employees in the sheriff's office that make more than the sheriff. I think we're going to have to reduce those salaries. We're going to have to take a look at the administrator making over $100,000 a year and see if we can consolidate jobs, see if we can consolidate job function and eliminate some of those positions. It's not a number that I really wanted to talk about, but quite frankly, it's a number from FDLE. The ratio of officers per 1,000 of population, excuse me, in Monroe County is three officers for every 1,000 citizens. That's the highest ratio in the state of Florida. Now that doesn't, in my opinion, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, I don't think that we need to have less officers on the road. I think we need to trim the fat at the top. We need to have less officers in office jobs and sitting behind desks and put more officers out on the road. Like I said, the reason why I didn't bring up that number earlier in the campaign is I think it is a little bit misleading because I don't want to come in and say that I want less officers here, but I want less administrators here. I think we can do it. We can police the keys and do the fine job that they're doing now for a little bit less money. In fact, I don't think we need the $1.4 million the sheriff asked for recently to increase our budget to pay for those salary increases next year. I think we can come up with that money with reduction of administrative positions and other wasteful things that we're doing.
Questions for Jake. I see you sitting there shaking your head, so I guess you agree with the comments that Bill's making on the the budget and the structure of the sheriff's department.
Some of my best lines he tries to steal. But I can tell you that, yes, I wholeheartedly agree that there is just off of changing, example, the budget. If you take 10 officers that are making over $100,000 a year and eliminate those positions, that's $1 million. Sheriff's office can do a lot with $1 million, especially when a police officer's starting salary is in the range of $40,000. So you can do the math of how many police officers that you could replace. What I think that we can also do differently is in some allusions that he made, is that we do have a lot of police officers here, and going door to door, I've been hearing that as a complaint, that sometimes there's a perception that there are too many police officers between the federal side with Homeland Security, Border Patrol, Marine Patrol, ICE, and stuff like that, and sometimes you see 10 police cars on the side of the road for one traffic infraction or whatever. And my point being is I think I would rather work more closely with those other organizations and have a combined workforce to where mutual aid-wise we can help each other out, scratch each other's back, all save a lot of money on the federal side and on the local side, and provide a better product for a better price to our citizens. The money at the bottom is more well spent than at the top. You're getting more for your money, and that's what I recommend.
Rick, a question for you. You're sitting in the middle there. You got two guys on each side. So you got an awful lot of fat in the sheriff's department. What's your opinion?
But he's actually skinny.
Okay, Bill, thank you. Reality is, I don't agree with these gentlemen, and I'm in administration, and I know what it runs the office, and we have done comparisons with like or similar agencies in Florida, based on our geographic population, based on the number of officers, and we found that we are consistent with other agencies our size. It takes a lot to manage this office. There's a lot to it. This is a large budget. It's $41.3 million. A lot of responsibility for public safety for everybody who lives here, everyone who visits, to make this a safe place to live, work, and raise your families. And we do a good job with that. Crime is down. The budget's down. Our retention is down. I'm sorry, retention is best it's been in more than a decade. But it takes a lot. There's a lot of bureaus, a lot of part investigations, corrections, administration, human resources, finance. We need strong leaders who have a lot of knowledge and ability, who know the business, to give good leadership, to steer the ship, to make sure we're going the right direction, doing the right thing for the citizens.
This is a question for Bill, and it's a philosophical question. And you've worked right now with one constitutional officer, the state attorney, and you're running to be another constitutional officer, which has a fundamentally different role, and that is of the sheriff. It's been said that the role of incarceration has a dual role, and that is to punish and deter. From your perspective, what's the right balance between punishment and deterrence when it comes to incarceration?
Also, I have a background working for state Department of Corrections, so I've worked in the correctional system for quite a long time. It's my personal belief that there's not a lot of rehabilitation going on in state prison systems. It's not our job at the sheriff's office, at the jail, to punish anyone. It's our job to house them, make sure that they get the proper health care and they're safe until they go to court. So, I mean, as far as punishment or rehabilitation, we're not in the business of punishment at all, ever. That's the job of the courts. The judge determines that punishment, but no way. I know in this room right now there are a bunch of corrections officers, and they all know there's no part of their job that involves punishment. As far as there are programs in the jail currently that work with drug and alcohol rehabilitation, those kind of things. I understand that we should continue to do. I believe in those kind of things. I think the studies show that your recidivism rate is going to be about the same almost no matter what you do, but that still doesn't mean we give up on it. It doesn't mean we don't try. And we try and help these people come in and do what we can, but I think the bottom line is our job is never to punish anyone.
This is from Jake Brady. You describe yourself as the Robin Hood candidate for sheriff. I'm interested in knowing what you meant by that and why Robin Hood would want to be the sheriff of Nottingham.
Well, I think the story went the way it did. Probably Robin Hood, in fact, was more of a sheriff figure in the story than the actual sheriff was. But I can tell you that I'm the only self-funded candidate in the sheriff's office race. Every penny of the money that's come into my account is my own, and it's all at risk. I turned down money from my family and friends because I knew I was going against a formidable opponent with a big Bubba pocketbook. And having said that, I'm not going to waste my money. I'm not here to do that. And I'm not going to waste yours. I have no strings attached. And in saying that, when I go to the community and ask for the people at the top, I've also said that I've pledged that I'm going to work essentially for the same salary that I'm making now. And by doing that, kicking back any excess monies to the troops as a personal bonus from me to show that I'm the working class candidate. I'm not any more special than you, but we have a special job to do. And it's time to roll up our sleeves side by side and do that. The Robin Hood mentality comes from that basically we're taking from the more wealthy and providing it for the disadvantaged and disillusioned that need to believe in something and someone. I believe in this race, folks. That person's me. Robin Hood or the sheriff, whichever one you want to call me. Just give me that job.
Okay, Mr. Grove, I want to follow up on the theoretical question that Ed asked you about incarceration. There's a prevailing opinion in the community that there are people who are incarcerated who don't belong there to begin with, specifically because they have a substance abuse or mental health issue that puts them at a higher propensity for getting in trouble with the law. Do you think that diversion is important for the sheriff's office to focus on? And do you think the current diversion programs that are available in Monroe County are adequate for addressing that?
Well, first of all, once again, the diversion programs that are in place, the sheriff's office isn't the one responsible for determining the punishment for anyone's crime. Obviously, the consideration is taken into account by the judge if the person has a drug or alcohol dependence problem, if they have a mental health problem. Quite frankly, the sheriff's office deputies respond to a situation and it's a problem with somebody having a mental problem. They're not going to be taken to our jails, more than likely, unless there's been a crime committed and they can be arrested. They're going to be taken to the guidance clinic and evaluated for 72 hours. If they're a danger to themselves or others. If there's no crime committed, then they would not be in the jail. It's not our position as deputies or the sheriff's office to determine the guilt or innocence of any of the people incarcerated in the jail. We don't determine we determine who goes there for a brief period of time, but they very quickly see a judge who determines whether or not they should be there or not. Did that even come close to answering your question?
Complex base of knowledge about that issues.
Rick, the sheriff's website is always very popular here in the Keys, particularly the mugshot section. Do you think that that provides a deterrent, is an embarrassment for the people that get on there, or is it more to advise the citizens who's been arrested and so forth? I know that it's a very popular tool for employers in Key West to check and see why their employee isn't in this morning. Does it serve a useful function? What do you think the function of it is?
Well, you're right about that site being popular. That's probably the most hit site in Monroe County. When our site goes down for a server, we get so many phone calls. Your system's down, we gotta get it back up. So it is popular with the community. Do I think it's a deterrent? No, I don't really think it's a deterrent. We put it out there as part of, we think, public information, right to know. The citizens have a right to know who's been arrested and for what. And so we think it's something that is good for the general public, and that's more of what I think it serves, but I do not believe that it deters people from crime. No one wants to get on there, but by the time they are, it's too late.
It's a question for Rick. Many of the candidates in the Democratic primary and your two opponents in the Republican primary have talked about a perceived morale issue in the sheriff's department. Do you perceive morale to be low in the sheriff's department?
No, I do not. And most people here have been here for years. We know every 4 years when there's a sheriff race, it's the same thing. I've been a lawman 25 years here. I worked for 4 sheriffs, got hired by Sheriff Freeman. And every 4 years election, it's the same thing. Low morale. No, I do not believe that. I'm endorsed by the detention deputies, which are half our deputies. I've got the support of the majority of civilians, management, administration, and a large part of the deputies. I've been fortunate enough to have about 90 members of the Sheriff's Office contribute to my campaign on their own accord, never asked anybody for a dollar. I have a lot of support from the agency, overwhelming support. To me, if they did not believe in me, and if the morale was bad, they would not back me, would not support me. Also talk about the retention. Best has been more than a decade. Retention is closely factored in with morale. While there are other some factors we talked about where the jobs are available, but the reality is, even before the economy, the retention rate was coming down and down and down, even before that was a factor.
Jake, I saw you shaking your head no during that. What was going through your mind at the time?
2 words: fear factor. That accounts for those donations into those accounts. Many of those same people are. Except for the people here wearing the T-shirts that are some of those $100,000 positions that some of the candidates have been talking about. Outside my opponent saying that he has the support of the corrections union, that is absolutely true. The union, not necessarily the people for it, nor did they vote for it. The fact is that the union gave the endorsement, and it has nothing to do with the individual members who have a right to vote, just like each and every one of you. The bubble system permeates our sheriff's office, and a lot of the support, including up to the upper levels of management, are worried about who that person may be that takes the helm. And they take their best shot because their career's on the line. Otherwise, they cannot go out and get another job unless it's at Kmart and Winn-Dixie. And that's what many of our officers over the years have been told to do if they don't like their job.
Okay. Let's get the last question. Rick, you've served as number 2 man under Rick Roth and Bob Perry. What would you change if you were elected?
Well, it's a difficult question because I tell people most of the stuff that's in place today is stuff I put in place either directly or indirectly working with both those fine leaders. And I continue to say that we have one of the most professional law enforcement agencies anywhere, some of the best men and women providing exceptional services. What I said earlier when we spoke earlier, I do want to do more on crime education, crime prevention. That's one thing I really think is important. I talked about earlier, training. That's still one of my top priorities, focus on training. Community involvement. I myself am very active in the community, probably one of the most active people in the agency. And I consider myself a community leader. I think most people here know I'm on about 10 boards. I've volunteered my entire life. I said early on, and still, I want to get more people in the sheriff's office from every single level, from the line level worker to the top, more active and involved in this community, helping, giving back, volunteering, not just on sheriff's office time, but when you're not working, on your time. Have buy-in to this community where we all live, and we wear this badge, but it shouldn't just be for the days you work that when you're getting paid. When I wear a badge, it's 24 hours a day, and I'm helping, giving back as much as I can in this community, and that's what I would like to instill and try to get more buy-in from most of the agency.
Thank you, guys.